So I'm here in Johannesburg at Fast KTM, and these guys have totally set us up. John from Tully Adventures and myself are taking out the brand new 890 and the new 1290. And what I'm really excited about on this is that they've taken all the things that made the 790 so great and they've put it into this new bike. I can't wait to try this out. Stay tuned. Well, John, I'm in for the 1290. Why? This bike is sweet. It's got power. I can slide it through the corners. I can dial it up just like a clock. I just dial it in and just spin that back around just as far as I want it, and then take off whatever I want to go.
This bike's got all the power I need. It weighs about 50 kilograms less than that bike. I'm comfortable on the tar at 140, and then off-road for a rider of my capability. She's stable. The suspension's phenomenal.
140. Yeah. I can walk faster than 140. This thing feels like a sport bike. I haven't felt a bike feel this good in corners since the 990. This thing, you get into the corners and it just rails through. And for a bike with a 21, that thing feels like a dual sport out on the road.
You traveled through Africa, right?
Yeah, I have traveled through Africa.
Do a lot of 140 cruising through corners?
Well, okay. But the fun factors here, and what I did notice is most of the roads I travel in Africa are gravel roads. We're going to be on wide roads, or they're going to be potholes, and this bike is absolutely phenomenal on all of those roads. The roads that most adventure riders are going to be on, pavement, potholes, gravel, rock. This bike feels absolutely sweet. It's stable, it's comfortable, the suspension's compliant. I can jump over small bumps and hops. It absorbs it. It runs through sand. Well, it kind of plows through sand, but it plows through fairly controlled.
I'll give you that. Look, it's, you know, when one gets to a certain stage in life, you're looking... No, I'm kidding. But I really got to say, you know, if I had to choose one, yes, great for the long distance stuff. But this bike has got everything you need in one. The electronics, really, really easy, simple to use. There's a load of them. You can dial in the suspension and the settings and the ergonomics to what you need it to be. It's kind of just, it's just easy.
Yeah, well, so the 890, I was thinking, this is going to be awesome. The 1290, this thing's all new. They've taken the fuel tank, because the old 1290, I mean, it sucked picking that thing up, because that's what I do for a living, is train people. And of the bikes that I have to pick up, the 1290 is one of my least favorite. I think it feels like it's massive. This, they've taken the best elements of the 790 and 890 and they put in the 1290 with a real motor. The tank hangs down low, it's easier to pick up, it's better balanced. I mean, they've just supersized that bike, except I'm more stable out on the road.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, they've taken every aspect of this great bike, from the electronics to the suspension to the weighting, and they put it on that big, heavy beast. I just don't get it.
All right, I think you're biased. So John here runs Thule Adventures down here in South Africa, and we're working together to put a tour together for 2022. And I think you're biased because when you go up to the Thule and you start riding there, you're just in sand all the time, and you just want a bike that is comfortable in sand.
We do a little bit of sand in Thule, and I really mean a little bit, not a whole lot. And you are right, this is the bike I want because I do a little bit of off-road and touring. But remember, it's 450 kilometers to get up there, that's pretty much all on tar. Even if you take the more scenic routes. And the truth is, we really mix it up, you know, kind of like 80-20, 90-10 in terms of tar to gravel ratio. And that's why I like this. And I think when we go up, we're going to need a big rig with all the petrol you're going to need to keep this up.
All right. It was going to cost me a little more, but you buy a big bike, big horsepower, you know you're going to end up spending some fuel. One of the other things I really like about this 1290 is that this bike came, when I picked it up from the dealer, I haven't changed anything. The ergonomics on this are ideal. It's got a nice, comfortable sitting posture when I'm on the street. As soon as I come up, the bars are in the right spot. They're not too close to the hip. This feels more like a dirt bike. It still sits down between my knees. The bars on it from the factory sit too close, so you have to go around, and it's got the 6-position adjustment, so you have to adjust it forward. And then your suspension, it always hops in the back, so you have to dial that in. That bike takes a lot of time to just kind of tweak it and to get it right. This bike, right out of the gate, it felt fantastic.
So what I'm hearing you say is you could really personalize this bike to whatever you want.
I am.
No,
now,
it is a game changer. I'll give you that. From the 1290, as a 1290 owner at the moment, the 2019 1290 to this is a real game changer. But from the 790 to the 890, I think they've just got this right as the ideal in betweener. Yeah, that's really what I think of.
If you're watching the channel, you know that last year I bought a 2020 790 and absolutely love that bike. I think it's a great performer. Obviously, most people have watched. They know that I had a few hiccups in the process of it, but that's part of owning a KTM. You kind of expect that they're a little more high-strung motors. I mean, they're ready to race is the logo, and these bikes both feel better when you're pushing it. When this bike's pushing the corners, it feels like a sport bike. When it's out on the trail and I'm dialing it up, it just sings to me. What I do like about the 1290 now is when I dial it back, it's still smooth. I could tour on this bike, up, and part of the issue with KTMs for me on the 1190, the 1090, the 1290, the 790, the 890, is they roast me. It's like brie. I mean, my rear end is, I mean, not only is it sweaty and gooey, which is gross, but also I just feel like I roasted it. And this one definitely does much better with the heat. I don't notice it as much. As far as KTM goes, it's a much cooler running bike.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I reckon it's just down to opinion. And, you know, I generally find there are two opinions in this world, mine and the wrong one. But you're certainly a whole lot more qualified than I am to make a call on a bike. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's in the riding.
A couple other details about this bike that are worth noting for the 2221. This thing has electronics all the way across the board. Anything you can think about on a modern motorcycle, this has a cruise control, traction control, ABS. You can dial in how much traction control you have. You'll spend a little bit of time getting in, learning it. It's relatively intuitive. A few of the things are a little deep on the menu. I'm not going to go through that. You can figure that out when you go to the dealer. But when I got stupid and we decided to kind of do some of the bigger jumps and we got into some of the more technical stuff, that's really when this bike, it wouldn't necessarily be the one I would choose. I mean, if I bought one today of the two, I would end up with a 1290. If I had to go to KTM, if I chose to go to KTM, if I'm like, oh, I want to bleed orange, I'm going to go 1290. But definitely the technical stuff, the jumps, this one lands much softer. It's a lot more predictable coming up. It spins well, it's light, it sits down between the knees like a dirt bike, which also means when you're riding on the road, it feels like a dual sport. It's uptight. And this one feels definitely more planted, larger, very adventure bike like a feel. And you wedge in very well up on the tank. The ergonomics are good.
So, you know, as I get to that point where you say, you know, if you're looking for a big adventure tourer, you can't go wrong with the new 1290. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more of an in-betweener, take it off-road, really throw it around. If you're a less experienced rider, it's going to make you a lot more comfortable. When you get into that kind of squidgy, technical, challenging stuff, it's gonna make you feel a little bit easier.
Definitely more capable than some of the, if we want to look at some of the competition, this one's got 21-inch wheel. It's got a 150 on the rear, so it's got proper tire sizes for doing adventure stuff. The suspension is very tall. It absorbs a lot. It goes over, when you get the washes in the road, it hops over. It has a very nice soft landing on the inside. Again, you can dial it up well. The clutch is light. The brakes are very responsive. They feel much better. The 790 and 890 to me require a little more effort. I have to be more deliberate, which I assume KTM did that because off-road, they don't want you snatching that brake and having it tucked underneath you. So they require a little more effort to get the braking in. It will stop, but you have to put some effort in. This feels a little more street-like, a little softer. I spend a lot of time one finger braking on this bike off-road, and maybe sometimes up to two, where the 790, I'm almost always 2 fingers up on that brake lever, even off-road.
Okay. Well, at the end of the day, as I say, it's a matter of opinion. I think let's get out there, let's go and ride it, and we'll see from there.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. The bikes are great. If you're gonna do a lot of adventure stuff, if you're gonna do touring, two-up, a lot of the stuff you normally spend time on for adventure riding, 1290 is a great choice. If you really like getting technical, you're gonna get into that deep sand, big jumps, really nasty, gnarly rock, then the 890 is going to definitely be more dirt bike-like and may be a much better choice for you. In the end, if you're going to bleed orange, they're both fantastic choices. It's just a matter of which one's going to fit your riding style best. With that said, it's time to go ride some more.
It is. Oh, before we go, Brett, I just wanted to say, did you see those over there?
Uh-oh! You're still watching? You want more? Okay, fine. Let me get into the details of these two bikes. The 890 is a bike I could live with as my only motorcycle. I bought the 790 to be a one-only bike. The big thing is whether KTM has addressed many of the niggling issues or the bigger issues that plague a lot of 790 riders. Some people are no problems, other people have had tons of problems. Hopefully KTM has addressed that. But the screen on the 790 and the 890 is still very small. They haven't changed it. And with my eyes getting older, it gets really hard to read all those tiny little numbers on it. And by the modern crop of motorcycles and the digital screens, it is definitely very small. It's just minuscule in comparison. The 1290 here is exactly the opposite. If we take a look at this bike, and let me fire up the gauges on this, and you'll see just a wonderful display that fires up, huge numbers, very easy to read everything, exactly the opposite. Likely the nicest large display on any of the current crop of motorcycles, and that's saying a lot because the BMW has a really nice screen. The new 1100 Honda has a beautiful screen with a lot of information, but this definitely stands out in size. If you want to have a large display that's a quick reference, this is fantastic. Also, some of the other things I want to clarify, I mentioned heat on the KTM 1290, and I said it was much better than the other KTMs, but it is still a KTM, and these motors are stressed for performance, and when you have performance you have combustion, and combustion produces heat. When you look at the setup here, we're sitting right down by this rear exhaust, and if you're going slow, you're going to get heat coming out of the bike in this area. At speed, I really didn't notice it, but definitely when I'm in slow traffic in town, you're gonna notice that heat here. So that's something to keep in mind. The hand guards on this bike are pretty much just a wind guard. They're not really going to provide a lot of protection if you tip over. And the other thing really surprising, I mentioned that the 890 it really requires you to spend some time custom fitting that bike and getting it dialed in and getting the ergonomics just right for you. And it allows a lot of adjustment, The 1290 doesn't, and although it fits me really quite ideal, the bars are flat, I can stand forward, they're in the right position, sitting is comfortable. I'm 6 foot, and you might be shorter, you might have shorter arms, you might have a different riding style, and this bike provides virtually no adjustment for the rider. Whatever you get off the floor is almost all what you're going to be left with. The shifter here doesn't have any adjustment. You can adjust the toe forward and back through here. Just there's a small adjustment here for reach, but you can't adjust height on it that I can see. On the opposite side, it's most common that you're not able to adjust the brake lever, although they're in a great position overall. I really didn't need to adjust them. You do have adjustable levers, for throw, which is typical. And the handlebars only have 2 adjustments. So the riser here, you can rotate back, or you can flip these risers and pull it forward. Again, in defense of KTM, the bike feels spot on for me. But you really want to take a close look at that when you sit on the bike, when you test ride the bike. Make sure those ergonomics fit for you, because you really don't have a lot of options for that. The seat on it's very comfortable on the road. It feels as good as, but I like the old 1290 seat as well. Airflow coming off, it does have an adjustable shield. It is the same setup as the old 1290, which is very convenient, and you can adjust it while you're on the road. The suspension on this bike is worth mentioning. It's very good. I mentioned I liked it right out of the box, but I also like the fact they haven't gone digital on this particular model. The street model has, but I still have full control with the compression and rebound and a little bit of preload. And then the same thing for the rear. I have a preload adjustment, and I also have compression rebound. And I like the fact that I can dial in the front and rear separate, and I can adjust each control individually the way I want it. And that's kind of a nice thing to make note of. Like so many bikes, I only had a day on the bike, so this is really just a first impression. If I spent more time on it, I might find things I learned to hate. I might find things I fall totally in love with, but it is a much better motorcycle for mid-range speed. I came in today, commuting in back to the dealer to return it, and just kind of enjoyed traffic, flowed through a little bit of lane splitting. I wasn't going fast, and the bike was quite happy at those mid speeds, which is another departure from KTM. They're generally bikes that like to be pushed. They're always begging to go faster. The 790 begs to go faster. The 1190, when it first came out, just begged to go faster, where other bikes I ride or I personally own, like my BMW, they're very happy in the mid-range of performance. This bike, this new 2021 KTM 1290, is much more comfortable at those commuting speeds, those daily speeds. I think this would be a wonderful bike to live with day in and day out. If you're looking for a KTM, if you've sold on the KTM brand, certainly this is a serious contender to the other large ADV bikes for commuting and touring. And if you're just looking for a one bike does everything, and you really want to get into off-road and trail riding, then definitely don't discount the 890. That's still a 900cc motor. That's a significant power plant with significant power. So don't just ride it off. Ride them both, find out what works best for you, and either one of these is a welcome addition or a welcome continuation into the adventure riding world. Thanks for watching. Till next time.